It's time, my friends, for a new series of Devo tips on the anti-kingdom. What is that? Well, we're going to look at it as it emerges in Genesis today. Well, people have accused Jesus of being a lot of things, like an insurrectionist, an anarchist, an overeater, nut job, boozer, blasphemer, and fraudster. The list goes on, but that's enough. However, I think what takes the cake is the outrageous charge of being possessed by Satan himself. The scribes say he is possessed by Beelzebub, which was a first century name for Satan, and by the prince of demons he casts out demons. Jesus' response is just brilliant. He says, how can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. If Satan has risen against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but is coming to an end. Satan's kingdom, like any kingdom, will implode if it works at cross purposes with itself, right? So let's look at the anti-kingdom. What are some of the characteristics? Well, it's marked by darkness. And darkness, of course, is the absence of light. So it makes sense that Scripture uses darkness to describe the space where sin thrives and evil schemes are hatched. So after emerging in Eden, the kingdom of darkness recruits a man named Cain. Why Cain? Well, Cain, he likes to do whatever he wants. If someone bugs him, he just cancels them. Citizen Cain fits nicely into the anti-kingdom. The problem is that anarchists fear the anarchy they practice. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Even so, the anti-kingdom likes mayhem, because it ultimately results in the rise of an warlord. By the end of Genesis 4, a guy named Lamech boasts of taking a life to avenge a bruise. This tyrant fits nicely into the anti-kingdom as well. In the strong man's house, you see there is no forgiveness. But it too will come to an end, says Jesus in Mark chapter 3. You see, a kingdom built on intimidation breeds resentment and uprisings. A kingdom that forces a dark agenda down people's throats will implode. The anti-kingdom is also possessed with control. The more the earth becomes corrupt and filled with violence, the more people like Noah will stick out. The anti-kingdom hates the light and won't hesitate to use anarcho-tyrannical techniques like winking at criminality while targeting those who herald righteousness. That's what Peter says. God will deal with such a kingdom, and it won't be pretty. The anti-kingdom also likes to form a collective identity to unify its followers and mobilize support. Forged in opposition to perceived internal and external threats, the fascism found at Babel creates a clear us versus them dynamic in Genesis 11. You either pick up a brick or you don't. The anti-kingdom thinks that God doesn't see what's going on. But that's a big mistake. The Lord knows exactly what is in the darkness, and he knows exactly what to do. One touch from the finger of God, says Jesus, and people drop their bricks. Yes, there is a real anti-kingdom, and Jesus died on the cross to plunder it. And since then, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. So tune in next week for another Devo tip on the anti-kingdom.